of World Crisis Radio. This is Webster Tarpley reporting from Washington, D.C., and a broad pattern of developments, the collapse of the Obama administration, the Obama regime continuing, and we've also got now evidence that the world economic depression is getting worse, not better. We may be in the initial stages of hyperinflation. Not sure yet, can't be certain, but straws in the wind now, pointing in the direction of hyperinflation. And above all, we've got Barkey's Vietnam, Obama's Vietnam, the war in Afghanistan, which is, of course, irretrievably lost, much more so than Iraq, much worse than Iraq in its potential. Ask the feared Red Army what they think of Afghanistan, and they will tell you Obama now, in a fury of imperialist frenzy, stoked by Brzezinski, Nye, and the ghost of Huntington, I suppose, rushing into the jaws of defeat. McChrystal, the commander of the invading forces in Afghanistan, General McChrystal, famous torturer in Iraq, setting up, according to the New York Times, multiple torture stations all over Iraq. That same McChrystal now about to demand more troops, escalation. And the question is, what's going to happen inside the Democratic Party? We've got to open a broad debate. Is the Democratic Party dead? Is the Democratic Party a political cadaver? Is there any sign of life in there? There seem to be some House Democrats who are not as brain dead as Obama. They haven't given their bodies and souls over to Wall Street and the various derivatives merchants. But today's headline, Friday, July 31st, Washington Post, Afghanistan, U.S. may shift strategy. Request for a big boost in Afghan troops could also require more Americans. Yes, indeed. General Stanley A. McChrystal, who took charge of the U.S. NATO forces in Afghanistan last month, appears inclined to request an increase in U.S. troops to implement the new strategy, which aims to use more unconventional methods, terrorism and assassinations in the clear text, to combat the growing Taliban insurgency, according to members of an advisory group that he convened to work on the assessment. He's waiting for more data from the planners in Kabul, the butchers who operate from desks. But it's clear where this is going. There's going to be an escalation of the Afghanistan war. It is hopeless. We're now up to, I believe, 40 U.S. dead this month, for the month of July. Approximately 40 NATO dead. These are casualties at the level of Iraq and are likely to go even higher. We had the interesting case this week of a leftist, a national public radio correspondent who had stayed behind. Her name was Susan Shays. She had decided to stay behind in Afghanistan at the beginning of the decade after the war, and she has now become an advisor to McChrystal. So we've got a leftist, a foundation-funded leftist, going over to the torturer of Iraq. And this shows the unbelievable ability of Obama to recruit leftists for wars that are now conducted under left cover with left slogans, right? Human rights, women's rights, nuclear nonproliferation, humanitarian delivery, efficiency, and so forth. All kinds of new reasons to have the traditional CIA people power coup or to wage war, as we see here. So Afghanistan is in the process of escalation. And now we've got a new song that's going to be coming out of perhaps Nashville or someplace else. It's called Where Have All the Peace Groups Gone? Where have all the peace groups gone? Sold out to Barkey, everyone. That's the story. The peace movement. Where have all the peace groups gone? Where's Code Pink? Where's MoveOn.org? MoveOn.org, of course, opposed to the Iraq war, but eagerly embracing the slaughter in Afghanistan. What happened to peace and justice? What happened to peace and justice? Code Pink and all the rest of them. Where are the Democrats.com and all the rest of this? Where are the peace groups? And one of our themes today is the need to open up a left opposition to Obama, to his left, where it's going to make the most difference, where it's actually going to change something. Strip off Barkey's left cover, you'll get concessions, and you'll get changes in policy, because that's the vulnerability. Right-wing attacks of the Limbaugh, Hannity, Newt Gingrich variety, worse than useless, because they help Obama. And that is the story of the Tea Parties, as some of the Tea Parties fell under these demagogues. People like Newt Gingrich came out and took over the Tea Parties. It's easy to do because the Tea Parties have no theoretical understanding, no coherent ideology, and therefore fall prey to this kind of knee-jerk Pavlovian anti-government stuff where the Republicans come in. Remember, Republicans, when they're out of office, spout isolationism, they spout anti-government, they spout anti-tax, they spout all of that. But when they get into power, they forget all of that. Unfortunately, some of our Tea Party goers haven't quite figured out that Republicans are desperate demagogues trying to ride back into power on the backs of a new army of dupes, right? Last year we saw the lemming legions and Kool-Aid cultists of Obama, and I'm sure there are a lot of people now who, even though they don't know it, are working to put Mitt Romney, the hedge fund hyena and asset stripper, into the White House with some policies that might even be worse than Obama. Let's see. They'll certainly be as bad. So Afghanistan is now the arena of escalation. In Iran, there's going to be the inauguration of Ahmadinejad next week. And we're being told, of course, by the busy media hounds and media whores that the resistance, the green revolution, the green color revolution, the green people power coup inside Iran is rolling on and on. But I am, as you know, very skeptical. I think that this entire operation has now bogged down. And we're looking at the evolution of Ahmadinejad as he turns more and more against the mullahs and the ayatollahs and the grand ayatollahs of Qom. And as we've been arguing here, Ahmadinejad is likely to go in the direction of dumping the mullahs, dumping the strangulation of the Islamic morality police, and indeed the corruption of the mullahs, because the top mullahs, of course, Ayatollah Rafsanjani, former president, who is synonymous with the worst kind of graft, corruption, looting, stealing, and all the rest of it. So you dump those mullahs and set up what looks more like a traditional bureaucratic authoritarian government, and you get a new lease on life. You get a lot of popularity. You got a lot of people who say, well, this is actually an improvement. Now, here we have the Washington Post, Monday, July 27th. Fareed Zakaria, the darling of Newsweek and CNN global reporting there on Sundays, and Fareed Zakaria, big friend of the Council on Foreign Relations and all the rest of it, notes that the direction of these events is now that Ahmadinejad is turning away from the mullahs. So we're seeing a group of grand ayatollahs, 6 grand ayatollahs from Qom, are attacking Ahmadinejad with a fatwa saying that it's okay to boycott Ahmadinejad's inauguration this coming week, as you're hearing it. But we're also told that Ahmadinejad is shifting away from the religious establishment towards the military. That's the Ataturk pattern. That may be the future of Iran. Back in a minute.